Hello and welcome to everyone. My name is Urwa Tariq from Mass Communication Department, UAE University, and my presentation today is about perceptions of Japanese anime among Emiratis and its impact on UAE animation industry. So let's get started with this research study. Now, one might ask, why conduct such an exploratory study within UAE? Why understand the Japanese animation industry and Emirati animation industry? Um, in 2020 March, it was predicted that the anime festival, which takes place yearly, might get cancelled due to the COVID-19 pandemic. However, the event was a success. What I'm showing you that majority of the youngsters had participated, and including Emirati illustrators, artists, animators, video gamers. I had attended this event and met a lot of Emiratis, in fact, who even spoke Japanese. And while inquiring, it seems they learned Japanese language through watching animes and reading mangas. Started with the literature review, and the literature review started with the evolution of animes in the UAE. And what I'm showing you right now on the screen are these from starting from 1980s and 1990s. These were the animes most watched, and they're popular till today. Not a single Emirati you would meet who wouldn't recognize any of these characters. In the early 1990s, satellite TV revolution in the UAE brought foreign media broadcast in limelight, and Japanese anime was one of them, which was dubbed in Arabic and became the most watched content in Emirati household. The anime series offered simplistic narratives, creating a long-lasting impression and loyalty among viewers, and have remained staple program in every Emirati household act. In fact, until today. These were highly favored for children as well as adults because it required minimum censorship and matched with the strict moral codes and traditions within the Arab culture or the Muslim culture. So today the same trend continues, however, the accessibility is different, and that's what we are going to discuss further. So we've covered the first part, and the second part, which literature review covered, was the factors contributing to rising otaku culture and fans among Emiratis. Of course, when Japanese economy collapsed in 1990s, Japan wanted to rebrand itself from a global business superpower to exporter of unique artistic culture. Eventually, the government saw an opportunity to use an anime industry as part of its soft power to influence international public, especially among young generations. So by providing a range of genres and creativity which enabled it to reach to the wider audience, which included UAE, making it essential to acknowledge its contributing factors. Um, of course, as we know, the Japanese anime defeated the misconception that anime is only limited to children only. No, in fact, it's not. It doesn't have any age range. And what made people love about anime culture and fan among Emirati was because of the storyline, which were hard to predict. It built up the viewers' curiosity, involvement within the narrative, the inspiring characters development, which attracted young people and make them attached towards it personally. Even the Japanese cultural aspect within animes was consciously toned down so that the audience could connect with it. Of course, the anime and manga interlace images of fantasy from Japan and other countries' culture were also addressed, which were relevant to the globalized world. Third, coming to the UAE animation industry, the literature review covers a little bit of introduction about the existence of UAE animation industry. In fact, it came after Saudi Arab, but it has surpassed it in terms of production. And one of the drivers speeding the evolution of UAE animation industry was the collaboration within the international investors. Many Emirati artists and animators claim that their initiatives, which were provided by the government, actually helped them boost locally produced anime. One of the most famous one was Farid, which has been recognized not only locally but globally. In fact, it's been the first ever Emirati cartoon to be broadcasted in Japan media. Another one, Shabial cartoon, which is very famous locally. Also, of course, the literature review talks about the challenges within animation industry. For example, big anime projects require a lot of money to be implemented. Even some of the local channels and broadcasters limit collaboration with the local studios or local illustrators because not many trust that the content could be delivered on time and of high quality. Even broadcasting on local television also requires following conditions set by the producers. Further challenges are like UAE customs, traditions, and censorship regulations. Represent clear limitations to opportunities for young anime artists. And of course, the societal issue as well acts as a hindrance, as not many perceive illustration as a professional field. I also observed that the more from an academic perspective, a number of studies had been conducted in different countries on Japanese anime industry. Yet, within UAE, limited academic research was conducted, which addressed similar concerns. So the paper was an attempt to conduct exploratory study, and it focused on two research questions. One was what appeals to Emirati youth about Japanese anime and otaku culture within UAE, and second was the understanding the current perceptions of Emirati anime fans on the UAE animation industry and anime festivals. To quickly brief, yes, we use certain methodologies. For example, a focus group was used within UAE University, consisting of 12 Emirati males and 12 females. And since it was a large group, the interview conducted was 4 times, and the group was divided into 6 participants each single time. So 4 times it was conducted, and of course, males and females were segregated due to cultural and privacy reasons. And the age range was between 70 to 25 years. The study was exploratory in nature, and the research team consisted of moderator and observer, and the overall interview was around 90 minutes. And the details of the respondents were kept confidential, and they were called by numbers. And yes, we made sure that the respondents who were selected or shortlisted had exposure to Japanese anime and Emirati cartoons, and had good knowledge about it for more than 10 years. Okay, coming to findings. This section actually tried to focus on respondents' first encounter with Japanese entertainment, what actually appealed them, their personal relevance, and consumption habits. A lot of factors were found out, but I have just highlighted few of them due to the time constraint at the moment. For example, now whether the Emiratis like to call themselves as otakos or what, and it was figured out that they preferred not to associate themselves with this terminology. They in fact avoided using this even during interviews, and that was because they felt that this terminology associated with unhealthy addiction of animes and mangas. It associated with someone who was an introvert and could not balance with personal life versus the hobby. So also they mentioned that within UAE, this term was misunderstood and constantly misjudged by the Arab society, also among friends. So they preferred to call themselves as anime fans. So even if an Emirati was an otaku and had characteristics like an otaku, they refused to call themselves an otaku. They preferred to call themselves as anime fans, as it gave them a balanced identity within the society. When it came to what exactly appealed them, it was basically the originality of the storyline, the creativity, the interesting characteristics, the bizarre idea and artwork. In fact, both genders highlighted that the storytelling style was actually unique, and the creators actually touched serious topics and tragedies while balancing them sometimes with humor, drama, or suspense. They also mentioned the Japanese anime actually allowed them to escape real life or reality from talking from a psychological perspective, and watching them gave them happiness, a feeling of contentment, and excitement, especially when watched with friends or siblings. Also, the easy access to Japanese anime within digital media made it even more popular. During while conducting focus group, majority of respondents mentioned a lot of streaming sites and apps, which they confessed were available for free and had no copyrights. However, participants also emphasized that they kind of felt guilty for watching it for free because they understood the amount of hard work went by the creators in creating animes or mangas. So, to make themselves feel happy, sometimes females willingly paid for the subscriptions online and even purchased anime CDs or hard copy manga, and even merchandise, whereas males usually invested in video games, figurines, or tournaments. And yes, another focus within this research question was the amount of genre preference. What exactly females like? Like females preferred mostly mystery, thriller, crime, adventure, whereas males were more towards action, horror, and romance. Even the consumption habits were noted down. The location, how it was, what. In fact, during COVID-19, they mentioned that actually the consumption increased a lot. Women would spend more than 3 hours. Male would spend actually a bit less, like 2 hours. Women would be binge watching and so on. And when it came to recommendation, females actually preferred for friends recommendation or online ratings, whereas males tried to select animes themselves without any word of mouth. Also, the preference of manga was higher among females. That was because of two reasons. It was seen that females actually consume manga more due to the artwork, visual appeal, and elaborate storyline. And females were actually more curious to know what happened next in the story, because majority of animes actually come from manga first. And so if an anime is incomplete, it would be the females who would be purchasing mangas or consuming mangas in order to know what happened next. Research question two focused on the UAE animation industry, the perception, and their actively involvement in anime festivals. When questioned about the Emirati cartoons or the exposure, it appealed to very few. And notice the word I used here, cartoons, because that's what respondents preferred to use the terminology. They said that actually the term cartoon suited more than the word animes. That is because they felt that the animation industry in UAE actually focused more on either kids or the family members, usually watched in a group, and the genre usually mostly covered was comedy or drama, which appealed to a very limited audience. Also, most of the time it was in Arabic language, again limiting the audience, and it lacked variety and had limited episodes. Even the storyline was not that strong, and it focused on the non-constructive aspect of Arab culture. Though some respondents even highlighted how the industry could improve. Or, for example, male specially highlighted that if a cultural element could be added, or a realistic approach or strong and meaningful storyline, that would lead to success of Emirati animation industry. Also, this was interesting that both the genders, males and females, said that they would provide full support, any kind of support, to the local illustrators, cartoons, whoever took up this profession. However, it was noticed that the respondents had high standards and expectations from local artists, since they've been extensive. They've been watching anime for such a long time, and they've have intensive and extensive knowledge about animation industry. They had high expectations from them. In fact, they even said that they followed a lot of illustrators, local illustrators, provided them all the support they could through social media, whereas in Instagram, Pinterest, Facebook, or even personally sometimes meet them at anime festivals. So the third factor was seen that the females actually were more interested in pursuing animation illustration profession if given a chance, compared to males. Males discussed more of fear and discussed the stereotypical misconception, stigmatization society had towards people who had taken up this profession seriously. In fact, one of them mentioned that he wanted to take up this profession, but the society or his family members mentioned that someone just merely drawing cartoons, that is just suitable for immature individuals. So that kind of discouraged them. Whereas with the females, even if they were discouraged, they landed up taking this as a hobby and continue practicing, or not leaving this as a hobby. Of When it came to anime festivals, of course, yearly participation was seen higher among males, whereas with the females, family restriction or parent approval played a very important role. They even mentioned that they had to actually take permission, or not allowed to go alone. They had to tag someone along with them, because these kind of festivals actually had high attendance from both males and females, so it was a mixed gender festival. So it wasn't easy for them to get permission. However, when asked about cosplaying, this was something interesting. Females showed a high desire to cosplay because they felt that this was an overall fun and unique experience and gave them this sense of freedom for a particular period of time, and they would add their own modifications to characters if they ever got chance to play. Whereas males, they looked for dependency on others. Let's say if their cousin friends would take part, then only it would encourage them to participate in cosplaying, compared to females who would actually do it even if they did not get the support. Okay, so we come to the discussion part, starting with the digital media serving as a gateway among the youth. Basically, they get to connect, communicate with like minded individuals, and be exposed to a broad genre of anime, which was actually once limited to dubbed Arabic versions, but now watched online digitally in its original uncensored form. Research study also showed that the youngsters do not watch anime, but also they are building a unique identity, which is reinforced by creating a virtual support community. All these become a leading factors in increasing consumption habits as access to digital media has made anime more popular, appealing, and part of their daily life. Also, respondents implied that by watching anime helped relieve anxiety, due to the current pressure, let's say coming from universities or restrictions from conservative society, has made animation an ideal way for them to escape reality. What was also found out that the various messages encoded in the focus group interview allowed the researcher like me to understand that the participant had developed a striking balance between immersing themselves in fantasy versus reality. It gave them an opportunity to reflect upon their surroundings or themselves. So, especially females were seen more interested in practicing anime artwork as a hobby, and we like to spend more time watching anime and connecting with the online community. Even they were the one who made more effort in trying to attend any anime workshop or involving themselves in artwork, learning themselves, training themselves, and delving into anime fandom. They felt that it helped them gain a sense of freedom from the restrictions of society and gender discrimination. However, also the research study also mentioned some of the concerns. Like for example, Japanese anime had indeed evoked an interest in Japan among respondents, and they were inspired to learn about more Japanese culture, language, art, animation, and even visit Japan. Also, there was a concern about violence and adult content within anime. Hentai was mentioned, which they found it very offensive and respectful material while watched. A Japanese animation industry has somehow created a resistance towards local animation industry. Um, so it's like respondents unconsciously land up comparing these two industries and then voting for one of them. That kind of creates a complication. Also, some recommendations were provided within the research study and how these concerns or challenges can be overcome. Like for example, Japan could provide a capital know-how and experience, whereas UAE could provide labor, ideas, and market. As we understand at the moment, um, animation and comics in Japan has come to a standstill in Japan, whereas in UAE it's growing, it's budding. So UAE could benefit from this kind of transnational cultural interaction and cooperation. And some of the ideas and recommendations and suggestions were provided within the research study. Of course, the study had some limitations as I said, was exploratory in nature, and it was covered from a broader perspective. There were limited availability of statistics, and only qualitative analysis was used. Quantitative was not used. Focus group consisted of limited number of males and females, which do not necessarily represent the overall youth in UAE. The theoretical model was not applied. However, just to mention about the future implications, that as we know that the UAE animation industry is emerging and it promises to grow furthermore.
The UAE government has started to already address these issues in light to potential opportunities that this sector holds to the economy and political learning. So definitely we see a lot of bright future for the upcoming artists, illustrators, and anime lovers, of course.